Are we live? I think we're live. I can never tell with YouTube. YouTube always has this weird like count-in kind of thing. But we're live. Awesome. So welcome everybody. Welcome to the old people who are used to these streams. Welcome back to the new faces. Welcome. It's time for another fun strategy or live stream. Wow. I'm sorry. The sun is out in Michigan today and it's got me my mind all over the place. But today we got a couple really fun things to talk about. First and foremost, we're going to learn about modulation. All right, modulation is a tool. It's a strategy, and basically it just means you're changing the key you're writing in. And this is super important for most genres of music. I'd say the vast majority of genres of music place a lot of emphasis on modulation because it's one of the best tools for increasing energy. Now, in order to actually learn modulation, we need something to modulate, right? So, I should probably double check. Can people hear me before we get started? Can people hear me? Is the mic working? Can you hear the piano? I'm about to play the piano real quick. All right. Can people hear me? Can they hear the piano? Is everything going on? All right. Awesome. World Music Theory says yes. Looney Tunes says yes. Thank you, everybody. All right. Good to see some faces. Welcome. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jack. Perfect. Things are clear. So, as I was saying earlier, in order to learn modulation, we need to have something to modulate. So let's just put together a quick chord progression, shall we? I think I'm going to stick to the key of A minor this time, just so it's easy. Let's do D, F, A. We'll do an 8-bar chord progression. So we will end on E major. We will go A minor, D minor, A minor, F major. We'll do E minor or C major, A minor, and then we will do let's do D minor. So our chord progression goes A minor, D minor, A minor, F major, C major, A minor, D minor, E major. All right, super simple, super fun little chord progression. Nothing too crazy. Let's put in the bass line, shall we? A, D, A, F, C, A, D, E. I'm gonna copy all of these, drop them an octave. I'm gonna take these, lower the velocity just a little bit. So how's everybody's day going? Well, I'm just working on this kind of stuff. Everybody doing good? Everybody feeling good? All right, awesome. So let's give this a quick listen. A minor. All right, sounds pretty good. So, all right, let me collect my thoughts a little bit. It's been a weird day. I've been all over the place today. Awesome people can hear me. We got some people on the stream. Drinking a little bit of caffeine to help focus my thoughts a little bit. I have got severe ADHD. So a little bit of caffeine helps. But where are we? Jack. Okay, so Jack says, don't tell my instructor that I'm working on homework. All right. Jack's one of my students at the moment. So good. You are what's the word I'm looking for? Man, I cannot think today. Multitasking. That's the word. Wow. All right. Yeah. Yep, we're in the key of A minor. So if you're confused about why E major is here, A minor consists of multiple scales. So in general, A minor will have as its base something called a natural minor scale. All right, so A natural minor. All right, my headphones are very quiet. I'm going to turn the volume up a little bit. And if you notice, there's no G sharp in A minor. That's too loud. I'm going to bring that back down again. So to create this dominant chord that we're looking at here, this nice powerful pull, we need to add the G sharp. And we're going to talk about this later. because this actually is a very important part for modulation. So I'm not going to dive too deeply now, but just if you are confused as to why I have a G sharp in the key of A minor, it's so that we can get that major 5 to 1 movement. All right. But, all right, here we go. So, got a chord progression. Let's do something fun with this, shall we? So, something that you may not have been expecting today is let's learn a little quick strategy for writing epic strings, shall we? So, epic strings, I have my Albion 1 short string library. All my libraries today are going to be Albion 1, just to keep things simple. And there are a couple of quick steps you can do to create a very simple but epic sound for your string section. So first, I'm going to raise this a couple octaves and mute it. Step 1 is we want to take our bass line and we want to create a very simple timekeepers, is what it's called. Timekeepers are a constant rhythm, constant eighth notes, constant 16th notes, constant quarter notes, whatever you have them, it's constant. It's sort of like the roll of the hi-hat on a drum kit. It sets a steady, standard, constant rhythm, and it allows everything else to be compared against it. So we're going to start pretty low. We'll start in just the basses, and let's see how eighth notes sound, shall we? No, that sounds a bit too fast. I'm going to do quarter notes. Quarter notes in the basses. Very simple. And so once we've got our constant timekeepers in the bass line, I'm going to just double that in octaves. And then I'm going to add one more layer. And what I'm going to do, instead of taking the roots, I'm going to take the fifths. So the fifth of A minor, the root of A minor is A. The fifth is E. If you're confused as to why they're called the first, why they're called the fifth, stuff like that, the way you make a chord is you start with one note and you skip the second one. So we got A, we skip B, and we add C. So that's the third. You add the third, you skip the fourth, and you add the fifth, E. And that's how they get each of their names. Jack talking about more caffeine, yes. Let's see here. Looney Tunes, could you do a lesson on visualizing the notes on the keyboard somehow? I'm a guitar player, and this is something I haven't figured out yet. Sure. At some point. Maybe I can do that as part of the Q&A after this. I gotta stop looking at the comments. You guys are gonna distract me. I've tried to focus on the lesson first. If you're new to the live streams, I focus on the lesson first, and then I come back and do Q&A afterwards. So I'm gonna stop looking at the comments unless I get a super chat. I'm gonna focus on the lesson. So let's write this down, shall we? Epic strings. Start by place the bass line in 2 to 3 voices and fifths only, and use a simple time-keeping rhythm. All right, so we've added the roots and octaves. Now we're adding the thirds, so the fifths. So A, the fifth of A minor is E. The fifth of D minor is A. In fact, you know what? We could just do a very simple way of doing this. It's just taking all of these, since we've only used roots, pasting it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there we go. We've got the fifths. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make these a little bit faster. I'm going to do eighth notes this time. Let's highlight these just to save a bit of time. And now I'm going to cut, 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 and cut. And now we have our epic bass line for the short strings. Now, so far, this sounds very, very simple. We can add a little bit more variation by using velocity. And all I'm going to do is for these lower notes, I'm going to take the weak beats. I'm going to lower their velocity a little bit. Then these, I'm going to do pretty much the same. This is the lovely part of composing, isn't it? Where everything is just super kind of repetitive. All right, I'm feeling better now. I feel like I'm starting to focus a bit more. That's good. The caffeine is kicking in. All right, I'm calming down. I'm able to focus. The ADHD is not acting up so much anymore. So now I'm going to highlight everything. I'm going to go to MIDI. I'm going to go to functions. And I'm going to, where is it? Where is it? Logical presets. These are ones that I set up. I'm just going to add a 6% randomized quality to this. And I'm going to take these second beats. I'm just going to bring these up a bit. I shouldn't be spending so much time on the detail here, but because I'm trying to teach a lesson. But go here. So then what we do, once we've got a very simple bass line, the next step is to use the mid strings. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to add a very simple, typically syncopated rhythm. Use mid strings, violas, to play a simple ostinato. Typically just 1 or 2 chordal tones per chord. All right, so what we'll do is we got A minor. We don't have C yet, so let's just do C. We'll just do 1 or 2. So we'll do D. We'll go up to E, creep kind of like a rising motion. And then we'll do F. And then we'll just kind of repeat this. C. We'll do, then it was A. We'll do E. We'll go up to E. Then this is D minor. Then E. Let's do 16th notes this time. I'm just going to do something random. No, I don't like that one. Let's delete these two. And add that. And then glue this. See how these sound. And then, yeah, I like this rhythm a bit better. So we're just going to repeat it. We're just going to move it up and down to the different pitches we need. We're going to do this. Copy this one. Then we needed C again. Actually, let's do... just drag these over here. And if you're just joining, yes, we are going to be learning about modulation today. But first, I figured I'd sketch something quickly that we could modulate from and with. What was it? This was D, and then we had E again. Let's chop this one, this last one. There we go. And then, so we've got our mid strings. This is just a quick little guide if you're just joining us to writing epic strings. We start with the bass line in 2 to 3 voices. When you're working at the epic genres or like the cinematic genres, we're not so worried about accuracy in terms of how realistic it is. Do most string sections have enough instruments to play the bass line in 2 to 3 lines? Typically not. Typically you've got the basses and the cello. But we don't care. These were genres that were designed mostly by people with just computers and without classical training. And so you think trailer music, film music, lots of stuff like this. And so the rule is, does it sound good? So a lot of the time, if you've got the sound libraries to have, say, like 100-piece string orchestra instead of the standard like 30 or so, then yeah, you can just do whatever you want in terms of the number of voices and not have to worry about how divisi would impact the sound or stuff like that. But after we did that, we've got the mid strings, which if you want to think of them as like the violas, you can just playing a very simple ostinato. Typically, they are a little syncopated, like the ones we just wrote. And next, you have a couple options. Second violins can harmonize the violas or start something new. I think I am going to just harmonize the violas. All right, so let's just copy and paste. Let's bring it up here. We'll go to C and E. Those are both chordal tones. Yep. F sharp needs to come down because this is D minor. Or is it D minor? Yep, D minor. G needs to come down up to A. And then we've got F and A. Those are fine. C and E. Basically, all I'm doing here is I'm making sure that these are all notes from the up, like the chords above them. So yeah, it's fine. A minor, G sharp does not belong in A minor, so I'm going to drag that up to an A. F sharp does not belong in D minor, so I'm going to drag that down to F. And G sharp does belong in G major. So now we've got our strings. And I'm going to take this A. I'm actually going to drop this down. Get rid of that one. Don't need that. Going to drop that down, and let's see actually. Oh yeah, I think that's fine. I just didn't care for that leap. Delete that. So we got a little more space. Let's give it a listen again. And I'm going to leave the first violins out for now. The first violins would typically play the melody, an arpeggio / run, or any other interesting layer. Now this is super simplified. All right. I just ran you through like an A, B, C, D type process to create very short kind of rhythmic epic strings. Again, baseline are timekeepers, straight quarter notes, eighth notes, or 16th notes, depending on the tempo and what you feel like sounds the best. You can use velocity to give them more of personality, but the important thing is they play a straight rhythm. If they play a straight rhythm, it allows the other elements of the arrangement to do other crazier syncopated kind of ideas, and it helps unify all of them. Again, those low strings play the role of the hi-hat on a drum kit. So, once you've got the bass line in either octaves or just a single line by itself, or possibly fifths and octaves like I did, an octave and then a fifth. Next, you'd use the mid strings, which you can think of them as the violas. The violas are going to play a very simple ostinato, typically just 1 or 2 notes per measure, per quarter, whatever. They don't have to be chordal tones. They typically will be, but they can be something more like... I'm a terrible piano player, but... yeah, whatever. Ignore it. But you get the idea. It can be something where you get a little idea, a little crazy, some kind of motif going on. Then the second violins can either harmonize the violas by playing the same exact thing, but just a different chordal tone, or they can play something different, like an arpeggio or a different ostinato. And then the first violin, I will say, forgot to put that down, play the melody, they play an arpeggio, they play runs, they can do whatever you want, something super interesting, to your heart's content. We're going to leave them out for now because I'm going to save them until we need them for modulation, right? So we've got this very quickly. Let's just add some brass to the mix, shall we? Let's start with the low brass. Again, these are all just a single library. These are all just Albion 1, which is the very first library I ever purchased way back, I believe, in 2018. The first time I started writing music. All right, so we need... Oh, let's... Well, yeah. Is it not muted? What's going on? All right, awesome. So, yeah, they're working. So why wasn't it playing? Oh, it's because it's way too high. That's why. All right, so middle C in Cubase is C3. So then an octave lower is C2. So we won't go that low. Actually, yeah, maybe we will. Let's do A minor, then it was D minor, then A minor, then F, then it was C, then A, then D, then E. So for the brass, again, something super simple. Play it in octaves. All right, so super simple. I'm not doing anything crazy with the bass line. I don't like how out of balance these are. So let's fix that real quick, shall we? I'm going to set my brass to just say like 73 on expression, which is channel volume. I'm going to set the channel volume or expression for strings to about, let's say, 108. Still not working, so I'm just going to do quick 3 decibels, just quickly. And we can actually add a little bit of modulation, shall we? So the low brass, where the low? There we go. Let's just add that, shall we? Modulation data. So all of these things. Velocity refers to how hard the note is played at the very start. So you see that they're moderate, not too, they're a little on the lower side. Expression is the volume. And modulation is also a type of volume, but it also manipulates, depending on the library you have, the tone color. So I'm just going to play this one in. Let's turn on the metronome. We'll play it in. Go. Did that record? No, I didn't record anything. What did I add? Oh, I added it to the strings. Man, I am just all over the place today, aren't I? So do I have, yep, low brass is selected. Let's try that again. All right, there we go. We've got that going. It sounds decent. The more times we listen to it, the more it gets solidified. So what we're going to do is we are going to just repeat all of these. We are going to repeat, and we're going to add just like a French horn melody on top. So let's just copy this. We'll go to mid brass, copy and paste it there. Just come up with something super simple. If you watched my live stream from last week, which felt a lot more organized compared to this one, that one, I talked about my process for making melodies. Let's just create one super simple here. We'll take our chords, we will mute them. The French horns are really good at doing slow kind of melodic melodies. So we'll go. So we'll go just half notes. C to A. No, C to A. And then we'll do C to F. No, that's not quite right. Let's do D, because D. Go C, A, D, F. Go C. We've got this going for us. Let's just listen to it real quick. I have the idea of kind of a downward moving over here. Let's play this in, shall we? Delete this. Mute this. Raise it up. Let's go to here. Let's make it louder so it actually sits on top of all those things. Let me check the comments real quick. Make sure that we're not lost. Let's see here. All right, so awesome. All right, awesome. So you guys are just talking about learning piano. It's cool. Let's see here. No questions so far. Let's do a 2-second. Actually, let's just do the whole thing, shall we? We'll go back. Do I have the mid-brass side? All right, awesome. So let's play this, shall we? Sounded super quiet still. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank up that expression, like I said earlier. Go down here. Expression is MIDI continuous controller number 11. I'm going to set it to about 93, which I believe is around like a forte, dynamics-wise. It's still super quiet. Good enough. It's a super simple arrangement. I did not spend a lot of time on it. You guys watched me write it. That's my alibi. So let's see about modulating this, shall we? So with modulation, there's all kinds of strategies you can take. The most common type of modulation found in media music, in particular film music, video game music, television soundtracks, all that kind of stuff, is something that is colloquially referred to as a gear shift modulation. All right, let's see here. Let's go to my notes, my notepad. A gear shift modulation, like I said, is super simple. It's the most common, and all you do is you raise or lower the tonic, your tonal center, by a major or a minor second. Like I said, this is the most common type of key change in film music because it's so simple. But not just because of that, because it has a very distinct impact on the emotion and feel of your music. All right, so moving the tonic up sounds bright. All right, it sounds warm. It has an increase in the energy or tension of your sound. If you take that tonal center and you move it down, moving the tonic down creates a darker sound, and it results in a decrease in energy or tension. Now, the way that I was taught this, and the way that kind of fits well with me, is you can imagine it like fighting gravity. All right? If you need to move against gravity by moving up, it takes more energy. If you're just going to fall with gravity, you don't have to fight all that often. You just take the leap. All right? It kind of goes with you. So this doesn't mean it only works with like moving brighter means happier. All right? You could do like the stakes are raised so the tonic gets raised. You could do things are getting relaxed and calmer, so the tension comes down and you modulate down. There's really all kinds of things you can do with it. But doing a gear shift, pulling off a gear shift modulation is very, very simple. It doesn't need to be prepared unless you want to. You just simply take it. You're going to double it. Double what we just did. And let's try raising the tension, shall we? All we're going to do is we're going to highlight everything. We're going to raise it from A minor to, let's say, B minor. So we went from A to B. All I did was raise it 2 clicks of the mouse. I forgot that doesn't work too well because this library doesn't go that high. Swap this back. So I'm gonna have to swap this down here to high brass. Something didn't get moved up. The low brass did not get moved up. All right. My bad, people. Something still is not raised. Okay, so when I highlight everything, apparently it just moves strings? There we go. All right, so now everything moved. So let's take 2. If we wanted to, we could just keep continuing that and moving up and up and up and up and up. Or we can try moving down. So this time, I'm not going to make the same mistake. I'm just going to go one at a time. I'm going to highlight all of these. We're going to go back down to A. And now we're going to go down 2. All right, down to G. We're going to take this. And so if we went back to the original and then down 2, we just need to move all of these down 4. And then for the trumpet, we can actually probably move this back up into the horns now because it's going to fit the range. All right, so now we are at B flat. Is that right? No, that was the melody. Starts on a B flat. The key is now the key of G minor. Darker? And like I said, this is a great way to just keep your music sounding fresh. And with film music, it really is just that simple. You take the tonic, you take your tonal center, you raise it up by a minor or major second, or you take it down by a minor or major second. If we wanted to, we could just repeat this entire process. And we could just keep raising it or lowering it. And you don't have to do it just by a minor second. That's the most common, or minor or major second. You can leap up. So if we were to do suddenly a leap up for, it's going to work. It's going to sound much more dramatic, which may or may not sound good, assuming what you want. Let's drop this down again, because the mid brass can't go higher than C4 in this one. So let's listen to this whole thing, shall we? So that is Gearshift modulation. Doesn't need to be any crazy. Doesn't need to be anything too kind of academic. But if you do want to make it smooth, 3 tips for smoothing out a Gearshift modulation. So, step 1, the first tip, because these aren't steps, these are tips. Tip number 1 is move your melody in the direction of your modulation. So we already did that in one of these. So you'll notice at the very end of my melody, we have the horns going, oops. We have the horns going, moving down with the last 2 notes. Moving down, and then when we switch, no, that's a bad idea because that was when we were jumping up. But in the melody, we move down, and then we take the key, and we move the key down. So that's one thing you do. Have the melody move in the general direction that you plan on modulating. You can also include other elements that move in that direction. So things like arpeggios that are moving downward as you prepare to modulate down, or moving upward as you move up. Runs, so you have the strings do running up a quick scale or something. You can have drum rolls, cymbal rolls, etc. Anything to kind of lead into the idea of something's about to happen. And then the third, you can use other elements such as pivot chords and or secondary dominants to prepare the modulation. And this one is where it does take a little bit of know-how. But we're already, like 40 minutes into this lesson. I'm going to open up the floor to the Q&A now. If you guys want to learn more about things like secondary dominants, I can talk about them. If not, this has been a very hectic lesson. More hectic than the last few lessons. What other questions you want to know? All right, let me know. I'll start reading the comments now. And yeah, if people want to know about pivot chords, if they want to learn about secondary dominants, you can do that. You really don't need them. They're not nearly as common in film music as this Gearshift modulation. If you want to write concert music or academic music, then you're probably going to want to have a prepared modulation. But you don't really need to if your impact is just to be emotional, to get a mood impactful, to cause goosebumps in your audience. That stuff isn't as necessary. It's fun. But I also have videos. If you want to learn about secondary dominants, substitute dominants, stuff like that, check out my playlist, Quick Theory. All right? Or, haha, it's time. You thought I forgot, didn't you? it is time to do my shameless ads. Go to Tabletop Composer. I'm probably the only guy on YouTube who does a shameless ad for something that's free. Check out my free music education. You don't have to sign up for a newsletter. You don't have to sign up for a minimum donation. You don't have to do anything. I have a free online school class on music theory and harmony. This class right here will teach you everything you need to know about modulation. It'll teach you everything you need to know about writing chord progressions. It'll take everything you need to know about part writing, voice leading, all kinds of really cool stuff. Functional harmony, all kinds of stuff. In addition to it, I've also got a class on melody writing and 2 classes on orchestration. One on instrumentation and one on actual, arranging techniques. So yeah, check that out. Also, if you want to learn more, no, that class is no longer available. Go to my bookshop. Now I will start advertising for things that are expensive. Throw your questions in the comments, by the way. While I'm on a tangent advertising my stuff, throw them in the comments and I will address them. Check out my books. I have ebooks, Emotions in Music, and The Musical Storyteller. Actually, this is a good time to ask questions. For me, actually. I generally want to know. I received a message from someone on Instagram recently. It was really cool. It was a guy who really enjoyed this book, The Musical Storyteller, and so also got my Emotions in Music book and loved both of them. In fact, he loved the Portraying Emotions with Music so much that he paid another company, I don't know if it's like a Office Max or something, but to basically print it out as a hardcover copy, which I thought was really, really cool. Are people interested in hardcover copies of my books? For a while I had a physical copy of this book that I sent, The Musical Storyteller. In fact, I'm pretty sure I got one around here somewhere. I keep it just, oh yeah, right here. I know I had my own. I had this book. It's a very thin book, but a very good book. It's like 100 pages. Very good book. I had physical copies like this that I would sell. They sold out, and I just didn't buy more. But are people interested in physical copies? I could restock. I could restock on this. I could restock on the Guide to MIDI Mockups, and I could get some on Emotions in Music. If people are interested in physical copies, let me know. I will do that. I will get more copies, and I ship them myself. When I get the physical copies, they get delivered to my house, and then I mail them to people who buy them. Other than that, you can also buy slides and scripts from my videos and playlists and stuff like that. But yeah, I think I've killed enough time. I think you guys should have had time to do some questions. Let's see here. Ooh, active chat today. Wonderful. More caffeine. Could you do less? Oh yeah, so visualizing notes on the keyboard someday. Yeah. So, I would probably, let's pull something up, shall we? Let's do. So the keyboard, a piano keyboard, is very simple. I'm going to take a screenshot and over here. So, the keyboard, you will see there is a pattern on the keyboard. 2 black keys, 3 black keys. All right? This is the key to recognizing wherever you are on the keyboard. Every time you see 2 black keys, let's find a blue pen. All right. The key right in front of the 2 black keys is C. Then, from here, every white key is just named after a letter of the alphabet. So you've got D, E, F, this is terrible, G, A, B, and then C again. All right, so again, look, 2 black keys. The one right in front of it is C. 3 black keys, the ones right in front of it is F. And it's just this one pattern. It repeats over and over and over again across each of the, 8 octaves of the piano keyboard. So, most DAWs, when they were invented, traditionally, music composition was taught on a piano for a number of reasons. First and foremost being that for the longest time, for centuries, it was easier to teach music composition with 2 pianos than to get a full orchestra in. All right, full orchestra coming in trying to play the music for you. Wasn't as feasible, but it was very feasible to just have 2 students sit down at a piano as the teacher breaks down the 2 parts. It was actually called a score reduction. For the longest time, the way you would buy sheet music was in a score reduction. You have a whole orchestra, and it was condensed to be played by 2 people on 1 piano. And they had played all the parts of the orchestra on it. Obviously, it's going to sound different, but that's how you could study it. That's how you could hear it before recordings were a thing. And so for hundreds and hundreds of years, composition was taught on the piano for that reason, and because the piano has such a wide range that it can play all the parts of any orchestra for the most part, and it can be played by a single person. So it was just a matter of convenience, and I'm sure there were other reasons as well, but for centuries, composition was taught with the piano and keyboard instruments. So when the DAW was invented, a keyboard roll just happened to be the logical chords, the logical direction to go in. And you'll notice on here we have the same thing. 2 black keys, C. 3 black keys, F. 2 black keys, C. It just repeats over and over again across each of the octaves. So if you remember, if you just keep in mind that short little pattern, C to B on the keyboard, it helps make things a lot more memorable, hopefully. So, other questions. Let's see here. Luncheons, there are little piano stickers available. Oh, yep. Piano stickers are very helpful. I can find the note on guitar. Triads have a shape, but I can't see see shapes on keys. Oh, yeah. So, let me do that again. So, you want to learn shapes on keys. It's not as shape-based, but it's basically what I was saying earlier. For triads, you hit your first chord, you skip the second, you add the third, skip the fourth, add the fifth. All right, so then just to put this in. So this right here would be a C major chord. All right, so at the piano visualization, you've got C, you skip the second, add the third, skip the fourth, add the fifth. So you'll know that a major chord will have a major third on the bottom. So we go, let's swap colors again. 1. Never mind, let's do red. That doesn't show up very well. 1, 2, 3, and then we have our fourth. We go, that's a major third. Then you have 1, 2, and 3. You have the major third. So chord shapes, major third, minor third on top of that. If you want to learn more about this, because it's going a little off the rails a little bit, like I said, check out that free class on harmony. That should help. Hopefully this helps. Chord shapes on piano aren't that bad. You just got to learn how the notes are made. So a major triad is a major third on bottom, minor third on top. A minor triad is a minor third on bottom, major third on top. And then, of course, you get sevenths. You get all over the place. But again, check out my free class on harmony. It'll teach you all of this. All right, let's see. Where were we? Let's see here. Ideal. In the past, I found websites that allow you to see the guitar position and the corresponding notes on the piano. I hope that could help. Oh, awesome. Yeah. All right, so here we go. So people are talking about that. Yep, piano is worth learning, I would say. I am not a performer. I am not very good. I can do little ditties here and there. Oh, I added an ad. Sorry about that, people. I missed that. Hopefully people will be back in no time, though. It's different. Let's see here. Okay, so Wild World Music Theory. Modulation he's talking about is different from the topic of the streams. Just thought I'd say. Might be obvious, but to save confusion. The topic of the stream. So the modulation he's talking about now is different from the topic of the stream. Master modulation. I mean, it was like, oh, did someone ask a question? I'm sure I'm not following what I'm going through the thing. It is a weird type of modulation that I'm teaching, but it is a valid type of modulation. Let's see here. People talking about guitar. Do you have any advice for improving audiation? So improving audiation. All right, this is going to be me showing off my ignorance, but within thin ice. I'm actually not sure what audiation is. Can you expand? I've heard the word before. I feel like I was supposed to know it for class at one point. Is audiation, is that where you like sing notes as you see them? So you reconnection successful. All right. Did I just lose? Did I lose everybody? That notification told me that OBS disconnected, and that's what I use to do my streams. Hopefully not. Hopefully people can still see me. But learn something called movable do solfege. All right. movable do. I think I spelled that wrong. Movable do solfege means that you're not sticking to do with any specific note. You go do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, da. All right. Do, not da. I messed that up terribly. Awful. It's been, I think, 2 years since I actually did solfege, so please bear with me. But the idea is like you memorize that sound. The sound of the major scale. Going through do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, da. Do. Don't know why I want to do do again. Da. But if you memorize that scale, you memorize it like a song, and if you can sing that, then you can start practicing like do, re, do, mi, do, fa, do. You can start practicing moving from one note to another. Just create your own little song, memorizing it. And the more you practice that, the easier it is to kind of audiate or sight sing music, if that makes sense. Mind is blown, Alex. Awesome. Hopefully it helps. Black and tips from finishing half songs or works. Okay, so tips for finishing half songs. That depends on the issue. Do you struggle with form? Do you struggle with knowing what to do? Or do you struggle with motivation? So if you're struggling with not knowing what to do, I would say work with musical structure. All right, I've talked about this in a recent video. Actually, yeah, so I would recommend check out my video arranging music. So let's go to my YouTube channel, shall we? Go to content. Arrange music like a pro. I would recommend checking out this video. Arrange music like a pro. All right, this video will help you get through everything you need to know about taking an idea and expanding it into a full-length piece. But my recommendation, just for now, would be learn about musical structure. Musical structure is just very simply the number and order of different themes used in a piece of music. That is an incredibly simple definition of structure. I imagine there are lots of musical theory purists who would come after me, but this is a functional definition. So ABACA is a very simple example of something called rondo form. It has 3 themes. It has melody A. It has melody B. It has melody C. It's going to bother me if I leave that capitalized. And they just come in this order. You have melody A, then you introduce your second melody. Then you go back to your first melody, then you introduce your third melody. Then you go back to your first melody. This is very popular in video game music because you can repeat it for long periods of time. The repetition of your A theme makes it sound cohesive like a full-length piece of music. But if you were to add a D theme, this is the truly popular version of video game music, you have enough new themes that only get heard once upon each repetition that if you repeat it, this is only the second time you've heard this. And yet, if each bar is 8, I'm about to show how bad I am at math. So 6 sections, 8 bars each. That's going to be 48 measures, right? I'm probably wrong. 48 measures, you multiply that, that's what, 50, no, so 48, so 40 plus 40 is 80, plus 16 is 96. That's 96 bars, all right? 96 bars in one piece of music. And you only heard this theme once, you only heard this theme once, and you only heard this theme, or twice. Twice, 2 times, this is your second time hearing it, second time hearing it, second time hearing it. And if you arrange your A theme separately, so simple size, big size, coming back down, so 3 different arrangements, you've got a lot of fresh sounds that you only hear a couple times. So that's my recommendation. Check out that video, learn a little bit more about musical structure. Again, I have a class for free on my website that you can check out. Ryan would love to learn more about pivot chords. All right, awesome. Oh, world music theory, I may have answered this already. Pivot chords are chords that are shared between the key you're in and the chords you want to modulate to. Then you use that chord to simply move keys. Exactly, that's exactly what it is. Thank you, world music theory. So a pivot chord, actually let me make sure I always got to see if he did it. Modulation on the strings. Oh, yeah, yep, thank you. So yeah, a pivot chord. So let's see, we want to do C major and G major. All right, so C major. That's C major. If we go up to G major, we take this entire thing and we raise it a perfect fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So C to G, 7 half steps is a perfect fifth. We get the scale G major. You'll notice all the same notes except for one, F sharp. In fact, this is consequently the circle of fifths. This is what the circle of fifths is, for those of you who weren't aware. The circle of fifths says you start with C major, 0 sharps, 0 flats. If you take C and you raise that entire scale up a perfect fifth, so C to G, ooh, you get 1 sharp added. You take G and you move up another perfect fifth, ooh, there are now 2 sharps. You got 1 sharp added. So every time you take the scale and you move it up a perfect fifth, you get another sharp added. So if we take this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, boom, look at this. We have F sharp, the same as the other, but now we have C sharp. And the same is in the reverse. If you take C major and you go down a perfect fifth, which again in this example would be C to F, it adds a flat. You take the F and drop that a perfect fifth, it adds another flat, etc., etc., etc. So that's how the circle of fifth works. But if we take these chords, we're going to notice that they have these scales, we're going to notice that they have chords in common. We have so these are all the triads from C major. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and C major again. So if we take this, and again, we raise it up a perfect fifth, we're going to notice they have a lot of chords in common. They have G major in common. They have A minor in common. In fact, they have all the chords in common except for the ones that have that one different note, the F sharp. So in here, it would be all the chords in common except for the ones that have F, because that is the one note that separates them. So we have C major, E minor, G major, A minor. So a pivot chord says that we can start in the key of C major and we can end our chord progression on any of these chords. Or we can start the next chord progression in any of these chords. And it'll just lead us into it very nicely. So if we started with C major, we'll go C major, D minor, A minor, F major. Our pivot chord could be G major, all right? Because G major is found in both of them. And then to show that we have dramatically swapped keys, we could just go to start focusing on the key of G major instead. So a pivot chord is really, you take 2 chord progressions, and either the last chord of your first chord progression or the first chord of your second chord progression are a shared chord, a chord that appears in both keys. But after your pivot, after your shared chord, you immediately go back to a different key. So we could do A minor again. We could do G major again. And then we could do D major. So we've got C major. Then we go to D minor. We go to A minor. We go to F major. That was our first chord progression. Then we go to G major. Sounds like it's in the same key, but suddenly we find out we're not, because that chord doesn't belong in there. So hopefully that makes sense. That was a very rushed example. But again, the idea of a pivot chord. Start in one key, home key. Either end your chord progression or start a new one by using a chord that appears in both your home key and your new key. Scroll down a bit. And then continue after your pivot chord with your new key. All right, and so those two chords being held together, glued together by that one chord in common, helps smooth out that transition, again, causing it to pivot to a new key. Does that make sense? I've actually never really taught pivot chords before. Well, I have. I taught pivot chords, but not, I think in like 6 months was the last lesson I had where someone wanted to learn about modulation. So you may have noticed, but like last week's live stream when people wanted to learn about counterpoint and melody writing, that is a topic I get all the time. So I have a very natural rhythm to teaching that. Modulation is a new topic. I love teaching my music theory. I love studying music theory, so I understand the stuff. It's just the rhythm to teaching it is a little off. So if it was confusing, I apologize. That is not what I'm trying to do. I always try to have good lessons for people. If you need clarifying, please ask me in the comments. I'd be happy to try and smooth it out a bit more, but I hope that was a helpful lesson. Let's see, tiredness. I've always got stuck with the idea of a chord melody tension regarding whether or not to add the chord extension notes into the melody itself. There seem to be so many options when going about this. Let me read that. I've always get stuck with the idea of a chord melody tension regarding whether or not to add the chord extension notes into the melody itself. There seem to be so many options when going about this. There's no problem whatsoever about using a tension tone in your melody. So a tension tone, for those of you who don't know, is an extension. We have the 1st, 3rd, 6th. We have the 7th, the 9th, the 11th, and the 13th. Now the tricky part, I'm going to take these, I'm going to bring the velocity down a little bit just so we can see color change. If we drop these an octave, we'll see it's just the scale. It's the full scale. Some of these work while others don't. And the key, generally speaking, is whether or not they form a minor second. There's no space between the two. So don't look at here because there's a space here, but if you look over at the keyboard, you'll see that these are two notes that are right next to each other. Whereas these have a buffer. They've got this black note in between them. And these also have a black note in between them, as do these. So when we come up here, F, unfortunately, is not an option because it is a harmonic avoidance note. It doesn't have that buffer note. All of these other ones are perfectly good options. You have a nice, beautiful chord. Every chord is a little bit different. Again, if you want to learn more about this in depth, check out my playlist Quick Theory or join my free class from my website on harmony. It will talk about all of this. So the idea is using these notes in the melody instead of, say, one of these. You can do that perfectly fine. I will say it depends on the effect you want. So having a melody that goes, that was an E to a G, so it's stuck with the C major. Sounds very grounded, all right? Because these are notes from the chord. They're very easily recognizable, at least subconsciously, as belonging to the triad. However, if you were to use, say, the tensions, there's a little bit more dissonance, a little more separation, because I used D and A that time, which are extensions. And so I would say extensions in the melody as target tones when you're creating the shape. Perfectly plausible, but they work best in dreamy, kind of nostalgic, ambiguous settings. If you want much more of a straightforward, kind of dark or bright melody, stick to your chords, your chordal tones. If you don't, then yeah, you can go with the 7ths, 9ths, 11ths, 13ths, whatever you got. It's completely up to you. I would just say experiment. See which one you like better. There's no formula telling you when to use what and how often. I like to offer formulas. I like to offer structures and steps and strategies because I find it very useful to just study with them. Holy cow. The stream is telling me, like the footage I'm getting right now, if you guys are watching this, the footage I'm getting says I am all the way back still explaining this stuff. I don't know why it's that far behind. I hope it's not that far behind. If you're hearing this right now, leave a comment so I can tell how big the gap is. Let's see here. Hip chords are chords. Okay, so there we go. Look, you are amazing. Thank you for your videos. Thank you. I appreciate that. So on days like this, I always feel like I'm a little off my game for whatever reason. Hopefully it's not coming across. Hopefully this is a very useful lesson. But yeah, let's see here. Oh, there we go. I was able to catch up to the stream. Let's see here. Tiredness. For example, if I have an add 9 chord, should I always try to include that 9th in the melody too? Then there's also the option of keeping the chord basic and just having that tension note in the melody. If you want to, that is entirely an option. Again, I would say it depends on the personality of the melody itself. I use the chord progressions as a basis for a tool to help inspire my melody. It's just the way I write. But I will never sacrifice a melody I like to stick to the harmony. I would much rather start with the basic chord progression, write a melody that helps inspire, and then, if need be, change the chord progression to fit a good melody. Then try to corral a melody to fit the harmony, if that makes sense. So if you like using the 9 in your melody, go for it. If the 9 does not belong in your melody, then don't add it. There's no need for it. Just keep it in the harmony. If you are worried about voicing, there's something called tension substitution. So first off, we have our 7 chord. If you are voicing this and you have the root in the bass line already, then you don't need to double that up here. You can mute it and you can use the D. You can add the 9 instead of the root. You can also mute the 5, because the 5 is a neutral tone, meaning it doesn't contribute too much to the color of the chord, and replace it with the 13th. So that this is a perfectly acceptable voicing of this chord. I can't play it because I have only got my 25 keyboard hooked up at the moment. I have a full-size keyboard, but I don't use it very often. But again, if you want to learn more about tension substitution, again, check out the free class. I have a video and a lesson about that. If you don't want to take the class, I have, check out my video on extended chords, which is part of my Harmony for Composers playlist. That should help. Welcome, Matt. Welcome. Jack, if you can imagine the 2 black keys to be chopsticks and the 3 black keys to be forks, the first note in the front of the 2 black keys is C, and that's a good one. I like that. So Jack's helping, is helping Looney Tunes, is it? Oh yeah, so Jack is helping Looney Tunes with a nice example. That's good. Welcome, Matt. Welcome. There we go. Within Thin Ice, audiation is basically how well we hear music in our heads. Oh yeah, so yeah, like I said, if you want to hear how well you hear music in your heads, like I said, solfege, movable do solfege, and practice your rhythms. Practice rhythm, practice movable do solfege. Those 2 things will help quite a bit. There's actually a book, written. What is it called? I'm blanking on the name. Man. Shoot me a message on Instagram or an email or something. I have a book I can recommend about getting better at singing and sight reading rhythms and movable do solfege. But those 2 are the big ones. If you can get movable do solfege and you can get rhythms down pat, that helps audiation so much. And I knew it. I knew audiation sounded familiar. So that was something big from school. Your voice is cutting in. My voice is cutting in. Uh-oh. Okay, so people can hear me. It looks fine. All right, awesome. So something is happening with the stream. I don't know when these things happened. I apologize for not knowing, but I noticed that I still have a good number of people on the stream, so I think things haven't gotten so bad that it's awful. Cyanide 2020, if audiation is in our heads, then no one else could actually know how well you can do it. Even if you could articulate really well how it happens with you, they still won't know. True. So the point of audiation, Cyanide, is to be able to study scores, basically. Audiation is very important for conductors to be able to look at a part, understand in their head how it's supposed to sound, so that when the players are performing it, especially if you're like a middle school band teacher or something, you know what it's supposed to sound like by reading it. And so if you can hear, oh, that rhythm was off, or oh, that was a bit pitchy, or something like that, it's a very useful skill. It's not necessary as a composer, but it is a useful skill. Awesome, people can hear me. Tiredness makes sense. Thanks for the input and clarification. Awesome. Aside from that, though, I would advise something like exposure therapy. Get a hold of many scores and follow along with the music as it plays. That is also very helpful. Just follow on the scores. Muse Score is very useful for that. Go to Muse Score, this website. They have a free... Oh, awesome. So the one it took me, this is a piece that one of my students wrote recently, and she recently had it recorded. Very cool. But Muse Score, let's say Star Wars. Just look that up. All kinds of arrangements that people have had. Wait, really? Is that all there is? Star Wars, you'd expect it to be way more. There we go. If I separate the words, we get way more. But yeah, these are all scores that people have put together that you can download and you can study. Lots of really cool stuff. You can look up obscure things. We can say, let's see what they got for Naruto, shall we? Whole bunch of stuff for Naruto, all kinds of things. It's hit or miss here and there, but it's really good. And they have an amazing free notation software. Very high quality that you can check out. World Music Theory, do you listen to any classical music? Oh, yeah, all the time. I believe it. Shostakovich's Manfred's Symphony is one I really like. I love Tchaikovsky. Mozart is obviously a big one. I love Bach. I listen to a lot of concert music. Most of the music on my phone is actually instrumental music. Half of it, I would say actually about 3/4 of it is like media music, like film music, video game music, stuff like that. But a lot of it is concert music. I have not gone to many concerts, unfortunately. I've gone to a couple classical concerts and just not had good experiences in terms of like the crowd. I had one where I went to see the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and I have a neck twitch, in case you haven't noticed. So you'll see my neck going like kind of that stuff. So I have a neck twitch. I had one guy come up to me during intermission and tell me I needed to stop because it was very distracting. And so that wasn't the best experience. I had an interview to get a job with an orchestra as a music teacher for their music school once, and the director of the orchestra told me that he wasn't interested in... Hold up. Skip ads. Sorry, YouTube was going to set an ad up. But yeah, I had an interview to teach basically a music theory class, a music composition class with a orchestra. They had a music school. And the director, who was an award-winning director, a very charming guy, told me that he had no interest in sending kids to music school. That his goal was to basically just get people who enjoyed music, enjoyed the orchestra, and would come back and donate money. And that also left a bad taste in my mouth. Again, I'm not saying that I've never had a good experience with an orchestra. I love orchestral music. I love classical music. I know many, many wonderful, wonderful musicians who play classical music. I will say that the concerts themselves and my personal experience have just not been the most welcoming in terms of the audience and the people that I've interacted with. So, unfortunately, I don't know why I shared any of that, but unfortunately, it's just part of that. I guess that's why I listen more to film music and stuff than classical music. But I do love classical music. I have many composers I love. I love studying the history of classical music. I really do. If you want to learn more about the history of music, Professor Robert Greenberg on Audibles has amazing lecture series. Like How to Listen to and Understand Great Music is a wonderful one. He does amazing background into the composers, their lives, how they learn music, what went into their writing of certain symphonies and pieces. It's wonderful, wonderful. I can't recommend him enough. Wonderful series. Thanks for the clarification. Let's see here. Rachmaninoff. That is something I unfortunately haven't listened a lot to. Rachmaninoff. Where would you recommend I get started? I know of Rachmaninoff. I just haven't listened a lot to it. I probably asked someone out to dinner if they made a comment about my neck while we should be listening to an orchestra. World music. He's had such an impact on film music. It's so emotional. Yes. Second piano concerto. I'm writing that down. I am always looking for music to listen to. Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto. I'm going to listen to that right after this. Thank you, World Music Theory. All right, awesome. So, at this point, we're just kind of dawdling, aren't we? We're just kind of... Does anyone have any more questions? I can't believe we've already been doing this for like an hour and 13 minutes. I do love Rachmaninoff. Yeah, Sansons is amazing. Sansons. His Dance Macabre, and of course the what is it? Circus of the Animals, isn't it? Those are amazing pieces. He's got a couple of wonderful symphonies as well. Camille Saint-Saëns was an amazing prodigy. Love his music. Debussy, of course, amazing. I like Mahler. I love Horst, like Horst the Planets. That guy. There's a lot of... So yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, there's a lot of classical music I have listened to. I just don't come up with it as quickly as like other pieces, I guess. Both write very dynamic pieces. Yes. So, here's what we're going to do. We've been doing this for an hour and 15 minutes. Does anyone have any more questions? Any more ideas? I appreciate the recommendations for classical music. I'm very excited to listen to some stuff after this. Because there's only a little bit more. Today was a sunny day in Michigan, which during winter is rare, and I want to go for a walk and enjoy the sunlight before it's all gone. So I will stay on. Let's listen to this little thing real quick. Let's recap modulation, gear shift modulation, and then we'll listen to this. And then after we're done listening to these quick little sample, I'll answer any other questions or comments that were put in during the time. So gear shift modulation. Gear shift modulation is by far the most common type of modulation found in media composition, whether it's film music, video game music, television music, whatever. If it's a soundtrack, the most common type is gear shift. All that means is you take your melody, you take your key, and you lift it up if you want to add more energy. If you want to make a brighter sound, a more intense sound. You take, say your root is A, and you raise it up to, say, a B or a B flat. Or maybe, if you're feeling particularly adventurous, you move it up to C. You just a larger gap. Smaller gaps are more manageable. Larger gaps are more dramatic. Or you can move it down if you want to create a darker sensation, an idea of relaxing, or perhaps a giving in to like dark forces, whatever kind of thought you can have. All right. In general, down it has a release of energy. Up has an increase in energy and intensity. You don't have to do anything special to prepare these. They can just happen. But things like pivot chords, secondary dominants can help. Much simpler, you can just have your melody move in the direction. So your melody ends moving up if you're modulating up, or your melody ends moving down if you're moving down. Or you can have like a harp or strings do a run moving up if you're moving up, or down if you're moving down, etc. If your music generally moves in the direction of your modulation, it's going to be great. So that's the summary of what we learned today. Let's listen to this very simple, stupid little sketch I came up with. We will mark where the modulation happens, and then I'll answer whatever other questions people have. Modulate down. Gonna move up. Simple as that. Let's see what else we got. How can you use diminished chords for modulation? Oh, very simple. Similar to, so yeah, I'll talk about this and then we'll end it. So modulation, we talked about different ways to have a modulation. Another big one is the idea of a secondary dominant. So the dominant tonic relationship is a very powerful one. In fact, we're going to raise this an octave. And we're going to drop this an octave. So we have very satisfying pull. This chord, a dominant 7, has a tremendously strong desire to go to this right here. Now the reason why is primarily because of these two notes. B and F form a tritone, which is one of the most dissonant intervals, if not the most dissonant intervals, in Western European music theory. And they create a very satisfying resolution when they can each resolve in the direction they want to. This F wants to move down to E, and this B wants to move up to C. Couple that with the very powerful, it's called root 5 motion, G to C, down by a perfect fifth. Again, a very satisfying sound, and you get. So the idea is you can use a dominant chord, a dominant 7 chord, to modulate to any key you'd like. Say we want to modulate to the key of D major. All you would do is you find the 5th of D major, it's an A, and you're going to build a dominant 7 chord. The way you do this is you build a major triad. So that is a major third up above the root, then a minor third above that, and then you just do another minor third. So here we have D major. So this, if this dominant 7 does not belong to your key, it's called a secondary dominant, and it pulls into here. So that's another type of pivot chord. You can end a chord progression on a secondary dominant and just have it pull you into your new key. Now, the cool thing about this, you asked about diminished triads. The cool thing is if we remove this G, we're left with B diminished, which also belongs to the key of C major. And look at this. The tritone still exists. So it still has a very satisfying sound of resolution. Now, it doesn't sound as satisfying as when you add that G, but it still has that satisfying pull because the B and F get to resolve. So you can use this to also, similarly to this secondary dominant, to resolve to any chord, any key. Again, you pick the first chord of your new chord progression, in this case D major, and you're going to build a diminished triad half a step below. So D, half a step below D, C sharp, or D flat, depending on what key you're in. But it's one step down, and then you're going to create your diminished triad. So minor third plus minor third, and it pulls you into your new key. It's as simple as that. So you asked how do you use diminished triads to modulate. Find out what you're modulating to. Take that first chord, half step below, and just form a diminished triad. It's as simple as that. If you wanted to, you could do a 7, add a 7 onto your diminished triad, whether it's a diminished, it's a, what is that, C sharp, flat 5, C sharp, so C sharp, minor 7, I don't know, you can't recognize shapes as well in here. Let's see, C major, so C, that would be a C major 7, so C sharp, minor 7, flat 5. Whatever it is. There are different names for it, but yeah, basic gist of it, half step below, build it up, and lead into your key with that. Hopefully that answers your question. And I am going to call it a day, you beautiful, beautiful people. As a reminder, if you want to learn more about this stuff, check out my website, go to Academy, free classes. If you want to learn some really cool stuff, check out my blog. I've got free blog stuff too. Lots of cool articles about emotions and music and stuff. If you want to learn some really, really cool stuff, check out my ebooks. The Musical Storyteller, this tells you how to write themes for characters, for story worlds and locations, and for emotions and literary themes, like learning to be courageous or any kind of like moral to the story you can think of. And then Emotions and Music, this book breaks down everything you need to know about just how and why music portrays emotions. So why is it that we do hear things like sadness in music? Why can music get goosebumps? Why can music sound epic? Why can it sound lonely and nostalgic? You learn not only why music does that, how it does that, but the cool part, you also learn how to be deliberate with manipulating it. So this book right here teaches you everything to know with, all right, here's the emotion I need to portray. I know exactly how to portray it with my music. This consists of processes. All these books consist of processes and strategies I have designed myself, and they have helped me get consistent work as a media composer. So check it out. I hope that's helpful. But I'm going to call it a day. All right, so thank you very much, people. A couple more comments. Let's see. Great lesson as always. I'll be back next week to ask what you thought of Rachmaninoff's second piano change. It'll change your life. I'm excited. I got it right down in my chicken scratch. I'm going to go listen to it now while I start cooking dinner and go for a walk to enjoy the sun. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Last announcement. This is kind of last minute. The last stream of this month, due to popular request, the last stream of each month moving forward is going to go back to a live feedback session. So if you have a piece of music and you want me to listen to it and give you feedback on how to improve, and you're comfortable with me listening to it live in a live stream, the last stream of each month moving forward is going to be about that. So get your pieces ready. Keep an eye out for the announcement on my Instagram and YouTube pages, channels, and I'll let you guys know. So you can submit it. I'll tell you how to submit it, what I'm looking for, and stuff like that. But yeah, Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you next week. All right? Bye.